This week on Quality Digest Live, we talk to KR Karu of Sparta Systems about driving quality across the enterprise.
Plus, the spectrum of quality improvement goes beyond red and green. We'll find out why when we come back.
Welcome back to Quality Digest Live for June 22nd, 2012. QDL is your weekly look at who and what is making the news in the world of quality. I'm Mike Richmond, publisher of Quality Digest.
And I'm Quality Digest Editor-in-Chief, Dirk Dusharme. Well, for our first story today, in 2011, the American Society for Quality issued more than 6,500 certifications in the United States as part of a Manufacturing Institute partnership designed to help fill advanced manufacturing positions. The Manufacturing Institute's Manufacturing Skills Certification System was developed to directly address the deficits in manufacturing education and training, which some say, we'll get to that, which some say is limiting the pool of qualified candidates for highly skilled manufacturing jobs. Now, we've been hammering on this topic for a while. We talk about it almost every week at least, and we're saying things like we need to be feeding skilled people into the workplace. But some believe that the companies themselves may be their most worst enemies. And matter of fact, some people say, wait a minute, there really isn't, this issue doesn't really exist, that we're looking at it from the wrong perspective. One of those is Wharton management professor Peter Capelli. He's written a book about this topic titled, Why Good People Can't Get Jobs, The Skills Gap and what companies can do about it. Now, we will be featuring an interview that Capelli gave the online magazine Knowledge at Wharton in next week's Quality Digest Daily, but I wanted to give you just a little snippet because this will give you an idea of kind of what Capelli's talking about, and it's really interesting. This is from Capelli, quote, "The craziness about the hiring requirements is that in most cases, employers are looking for somebody who is currently doing exactly the same job someplace else. The problem is that nobody wants to give those people right out of school any experience. Nobody wants to take somebody who's never done the job before and train them," end quote. And train them. Now, there was an interesting, just coincidentally, NPR also picked up on this story, and they did an interview with, I think they were interviewing Capelli and a few other people. And one of the issues that does come up is the aspect of training. Some companies believe it's more worth their while to wait to have a job opening and to wait and to wait and to wait to fill that position with somebody who's just ready to jump in, good to go. They've got the experience, they know the job, they don't have to train them. Less expensive than bringing somebody in who's got maybe the basic skill set and training them, because training budgets supposedly have been cut. Now, Capelli makes the argument that, well, they think they're saving money this way, but maybe they aren't.
Well, let's look at this from the big picture. I mean, really, when you think about this, the way they're approaching this is a zero-sum game. There's only so many of these trained people out there, and they got trained somehow, right? I mean, somebody at some point had to take a chance and be willing to maybe weed out people and invest in people that weren't going to work out. It's part of the process.
Somebody's got to pay for it.
Somebody's got to pay for it at some point. Now, we've done, as you mentioned, we've done a lot on this topic. We had an interview with Chris Vasconcelos that we're going to be having, hopefully not on this show, but in QD website here fairly soon. And we talk about it with CMSC a lot. I mean, they're going through a lot with their certification program to ensure that people have the skills that are needed to get these jobs. Important stuff here, and I think it's certainly something we're going to continue to keep our eye on.
If what Capelli is saying is true, though, part of the problem is that even if these people are fresh out of school and they have a certificate,
and they're certified,
nobody may want to hire them because they don't have the 10 years of on-hands experience.
Well, what's going to happen is the market's going to take care of it, because those people are going to all of a sudden be able to, if it's a limited pool, they're going to be able to demand so much money to switch that people are going to say, what the heck with that? I can't afford to pay somebody $125,000 to do an $80,000 job. So I'm going to take the chance. And maybe it's not as guaranteed, but it's going to be economically
actually, you got to read the article. There's actually a lot of information in there on kind of the myths behind who's hiring, who isn't hiring, and wages, and the whole ball of wax. It's a very interesting read next week.
So keep an eye out for that.
Actually, I believe it might even it's Monday, or I think
it's early next week.
Early next week, maybe Tuesday's QDD.
Okay,
yeah.
So check that out. Great, thanks, Dirk. Okay. Also in the news this week, the American Customer Satisfaction Index, or ACSI, recently released their June report analyzing consumers' opinions of several industries, including airlines, hotels, and restaurants, and they do this regularly, of course, the ACSI. It's no surprise that airlines continue to lag behind the vast majority of industries in overall customer satisfaction. In fact, of the 47 sectors that make up the ACSI survey, only subscription TV services and newspapers, yay media, are ranked below airlines. Why? Well, according to ACSI,
ranked below airlines.
Well, newspapers, not internet magazines like Quality Digest. Let's be honest here. Okay. Well, why? Why is that? Why are airlines ranked so low? According to ACSI, a spate of recent mergers within the industry, which brings displacement, of course, to established customer service processes, is at least partially to blame. Now, in a bit of a surprise, the top-ranking airline in this year's survey was JetBlue, which is new to the survey, actually, and they displaced perennial leader Southwest. In the hotel industry, leisure travelers tend to report higher degrees of satisfaction than do business guests. Now, Dirk, do you think maybe that a couple on vacation in Hawaii might be more predisposed to a higher degree of satisfaction than a project manager on the road in, say, Dubuque in January?
Yeah, exactly. I read that and I thought, well, yeah, duh.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to mess with their data. In any event, Hilton leads the pack in customer satisfaction in the industry, followed by Marriott. Now, in restaurants, leading chains include Papa John's in the pizza category, Dunkin' Donuts, narrowly over Starbucks in coffee shops, Wendy's for burger joints, and Applebee's in the so-called sit-down restaurant category. Overall, the trend seems to be towards slightly better customer satisfaction in most industries, but clearly, of course, there's still a lot of room for improvement. So to read the complete article on our website and find out more about ACSI, just click on the story link just below the player page, right here, right there.
There it is, right below you.
All right.
Okay, well, we have our interview coming up with KR Karu, and let me just intro this way. All of us in the United States, I hope, understand the need for quality processes and quality management within our organizations. Most companies have some sort of quality management system in place. Unfortunately, very often, particularly in large companies, you have a situation where each department handles quality in its own way, and very often that data isn't shared with other departments. This kind of creates quality silos where each department may be doing a perfectly fine job with their quality management and using their quality data, but the data isn't necessarily being shared. What is missing in many companies is a vision on how to assemble quality tools into a comprehensive, integrated enterprise quality management system that enables companies to globalize their quality systems in order to meet better meet regulatory scrutiny, protect the lives of their customers, let's say if we're talking pharmaceutical or FDA, and create efficiencies and provide measurable and substantial savings, which applies to pretty much any kind of company. So today's guest is KR Karu. He is an Industry Solutions Director with Sparta Systems, and he is also an industry expert on quality management, as well as a subject matter expert on FDA regulations. So KR, are you with us?
I am.
All right.
Thank you, Dirk.
Thanks, KR. And KR, just really briefly, just give us a little bit about what your background is and what you do with Sparta.
Okay. In Sparta Systems, I am the general manager of our practice to the pharmaceutical industry. What we do is we have quality management software and solutions for multiple industries, and I'm particularly responsible for the pharmaceutical industry.
Okay. How has the globalization of corporations, would you say, affected the quality function? I mean, I talked a little bit about quality silos. I would assume that that is one of the big issues that you have when you go with a global company.
Absolutely. I was very interested in listening to the way you described it, and you were right on the money. One thing that you said most companies have a quality system in place. I would pluralize that. They have multiple quality systems in place, and you said that they manage quality issues departmentally. Add on to that the third dimension of globalization with suppliers, with multiple sites in places. It's almost impossible for these companies to to take care of quality problems when they're manufacturing product across multiple companies and across multiple manufacturing sites, and they really have to have a different vision for this.
Now, you obviously, as we said in the intro, your background and your major expertise is within FDA-regulated industries, which includes pharmaceutical. So when you have that kind of situation, where you have your quality in silos and globally as well, what kind of risks is this causing for companies? I mean, from an FDA point of view, or from an FDA-regulated industry point of view, what kind of problems and issues might they face that would really enhance the type of risk that they're facing?
Well, what tends to happen is they solve problems, they have quality issues, they investigate them, they determine root cause, and they take corrective actions and start to maybe go through a change management process. But again, it's siloed. It's around where the problem happened, and they solve the problem there. They don't extend it and really say, where else are we manufacturing this, or where else are we following this? A real interesting example happened a few years ago at a major biotech company that had an extremely successful product, and they began to manufacture that product both in the United States and Europe. And over the years, as part of their quality system, they had separate change management systems. So they were managing changes to the product locally as opposed to globally. And a number of years later, the FDA came in, inspected both plants, and said, you have changed this product separately for so long, you're not licensed to sell it anywhere anymore, because we don't know which of these two, what we're considering now different products, is the one we originally licensed you for. And the end result of that was literally hundreds of millions of dollars in losses.
Now, obviously, that's a good example then from, let's say, a legal point of view, because the FDA can come in and have them pull a product from the shelf. What about from just a general, let's say, a general manufacturing point of view? A consumer products company, or even an industrial products company, but they're not regulated, let's say. What kind of issues might they have with quality silos?
Well, they have issues that are compounded. When you are in consumer products, people have choices. So if your products, if you get a reputation of not making quality products, there's usually something else on the shelf next to that product. And if I'm reading in the newspaper about manufacturing problems at a company, or the quality of it goes down, word of mouth, the internet, everything, bad news travels very quickly these days. And delivering a product with poor quality or something that doesn't deliver what it's supposed to, news of that gets out there very quickly. And it goes to the heart of the revenues of the company, their reputation, and those are things that are not very simple to recover from. It takes years and years and years for a company with known quality issues to recover.
KR, you touched upon I want to jump in here for a moment. You touched upon the idea of silos, and certain companies and certain industries handle that differently and are more prone to that. Can you talk a little bit about kind of how culture, and maybe not only the culture of the company, but the culture of maybe the nation in which these companies are based, and we're talking about global supply chain, how culture plays into how they deal with these issues, how they break out their processes, and how the silos form from company to company?
That's a really interesting subject. I could spend hours talking about that. What we're seeing with companies globalizing, if you have a highly complex product, say a piece of electronics, there are probably components in it that were manufactured on pretty much every continent with the exception of Antarctica, and that might even be questionable. And when you're bringing those together, the manufacture of the product goes from place to place to place to place. And, the old adage, a chain is as strong as its weakest link, really comes into play. So for a company, if if my name is on the product that I'm selling, consumers don't care that it might have been a sub-manufacturer for you in the Far East, or a component manufacturer in Africa, or someone doing winding in a plant in Kentucky. They don't care about that. It's the end product that's out there. So having control over your quality becomes much more critical, especially in these days of companies having, it's really extended enterprises. People do not manufacture products within their four walls anymore. Pretty much in every industry, they go through suppliers and multiple suppliers to deliver end product to market.
Hey, KR, we've kind of set up what the problem is here, and obviously I think anybody with reasonable mental facilities would understand that quality in silos is really an issue. But we do have a webinar coming up on this next week, in which we're going to be talking about just kind of what is the solution to this. If that's the problem, what is the solution? Just in a nutshell, can you tell us what you believe the solution is, and probably what we're going to be touching on the webinar next week?
Yeah, well, that's actually the good news, because the solution usually exists within the companies. It's just usually a local or a regional or a departmental solution. And it really is management of these companies taking a different view of quality. That if we discover an issue and the root cause of the issue is a piece of manufacturing equipment, instead of just fixing it in one place, we need to take a look at where else we use that piece of equipment and create corrective actions and preventive actions at all the sites that use that. Or if it's a raw material that we're using, or a component that's being used that we find that's faulty, what else do we use that in? Let's look across the board and not only solve the problem at hand that we found, but look in a preventive way to keep that from happening with additional products or additional things that might be using those same components or equipment for manufacturing.
Okay. Well, KR, we're going to be talking about that more in the webinar next week, but thank you for joining us today and giving us kind of a brief overview of kind of the issue, quality silos, and what do we do about them? How do we share this data across our entire organization and make good use of the data in order to produce better products? So,
Great.
KR, thanks for joining us.
Hey, gentlemen, thank you, and thank you to your audience for listening.
Okay.
Bye now.
Thanks, KR. See ya. Yeah, well, that's going to be Tuesday, as Dirk indicated, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern.
And there's a link below the player.
There's a link right below the player right here where you can sign up for that. Dirk and KR will be hosting that. KR will be presenting, and Dirk will be moderating. So really good stuff. That's a good webinar. We certainly encourage you to check that one out.
Sure.
And again, you can sign up right below the player page right here and go out to their sign up page and check it out on Tuesday morning again, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Great. All right. Thanks, Dirk. Thanks, KR. Thanks, Sparta. All right. We're going to move on now. We had a very, our articles are like our children. We love them all. They're all great. But we do have articles that do stand out.
Yeah, and there's articles that definitely hit hot buttons.
That hit hot buttons.
This was one of them.
Really stand out and get really, really well read, really well responded. This was one, and this was by Rip Stauffer. And the title of the article is "Your World is Not Red or Green." Rip Stauffer again appeared in Wednesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. Really, really compelling article. Really well argued. Really well written. And the thing about Rip, which is great, and Rip writes for us, not often, but on occasion Rip writes for us. The thing about Rip, which is so great, is he takes these very complicated ideas and he makes them so accessible. You really understand in very simple language what even I understand. You understand in very simple language what he's talking about. And what he's talking about here is something that we've talked about a lot: dashboards. They're typical red, yellow, green dashboard, right? I mean, we all use them. Everybody uses them. They're ubiquitous across the industry. Rip wonders about it.
Rip kind of rips it a little bit.
A little bit. But it makes a lot of sense. He starts, as many people do when we're talking about these issues, with Deming, and where Deming started really with the red bead experiment. And The red bead experiment, in case any of you or anyone still is left who's not familiar with what the red bead experiment is all about, the red bead experiment is designed to show you that if you try to arbitrarily draw a result out of a flawed system, you're going to get a bad result. And it's not the operators. The operators have nothing to do with it. If you design a system that's flawed, that's going to have defects in it, you can't blame the operators for pulling, in this case, red beads that mean that it's a defect. You can yell at them, you can give them the carrot, the stick, or you can give them the carrot if they pull the good beads, the black beads. But it ultimately the problem is the system. Rip start, and that's where he starts, but he also then goes into this idea of the idiot lights. Did you remember his story of the idiot lights, which is great? I didn't even realize this, that he's dating himself a little bit by going here, but in the 60s and before, when you ordered a car, apparently from a dealer, you had a choice. You could either have the actual gauges, the indicator gauges, or you'd have the lights, which would say, things like, well, I guess oil levels.
Oil levels, oil pressure.
And that you could actually see the levels, what those were, and you could measure them yourself. But then the other option was you could just have these indicator lights, which would go off when you were at a dangerous level of these, right? So you wouldn't necessarily know, well, when did they get high, or why, or anything else.
Just all of a sudden, I've got this light on.
I got the light on, go fix it. Hey, I don't care why, fix it, right? It's a problem. Now this idea has become endemic now in management and industry. The idea that I don't care why the light's going off. It's going off, fix it. So this manifests itself in these green, yellow, red dashboards, right? Green, great, you're doing great, keep going. Yellow, well, okay, but watch it, right? Or red, fix it, or
right
else.
now,
Or right now, That's how management deals with these things. That's how, many times, I don't want to lump everybody into this, but then many times that's how management deals with these dashboards, is they look at the data that comes in, and these again, these are extremely arbitrary data points.
And the red lights become kind of management by reaction.
By reaction, that's the thing, is there are trailing indicators. You don't really know what's going on. You think you know what's going on. You have an arbitrary indicator that says this is not right, so go ahead and fix it. And they maybe start tampering with processes that don't need to be tampered with. As Rip says, if you just plot the dots, you'll see many times, most times, the process is perfectly in control. It's perfectly in control. Now, that doesn't mean that the process is good.
Yeah. This is what Davis refers to as the process is perfectly designed to do what it's doing.
To get the result it's getting.
Yeah, even if it's not the result you want, but the process may be working exactly the way it's designed.
That's exactly what Rip's talking about. That's exactly what Davis is talking about. The process does what the process is going to do.
Yeah.
And just because you think arbitrarily something is either out of spec or below, whatever the number may be, you make a change in that, you're probably in control. You probably were in control the whole time. But now, if you're still sub-optimizing, if you're still not producing, let's say, the parts to spec that you need, you have customer complaints or defects, or whatever, then most likely it's the process that needs to be changed, the entire process, the entire edifice, not just a window in the edifice. The entire thing needs to be changed, right? So that's what Rip is talking about here. So what's better? Other than just using these dashboards, these green, yellow, red dashboards, what's better? Well, plot the dots.
Plot the dots. Yeah.
Plot the dots. And again, Davis talks about it all the time. Wheeler, anybody.
By the way, when we say Davis, we mean Davis Balstracci, one of our frequent contributors.
And hammers this point home very well. And this article, of course, is Your World is Not Red or Green by Rip Stafford, and appeared in Wednesday's issue of Quality Digest Daily. So plot the dots. That's the first thing you want to do. You want to just let the data run in a run chart, and you want to look at it over the course of time. The other things you want to understand, and this is something that is, for whatever reason, is lost on many people, even many high-level managers. You want to understand the difference between special cause and common cause. Sometimes you have numbers that look crazy, but there is a special cause that deals with that. Holidays, vacations, sickness, whatever, something, an earthquake in Japan, right? I mean, there are special causes. So understand the difference between a special cause and a common cause. If you're out of control and it's a common cause, well then you've got a real problem. But you may be in control, but you still, if you're sub-optimizing, you still have to change the process. Now, Rip argues, is sometimes argued, that reading dashboards is easy, and that doing control charts and run charts is hard. Well, what's hard?
Yeah. Particularly with software out there now,
well,
too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that really mean? I mean, are you saying that people aren't capable of getting these concepts? They're pretty simple concepts. They're not that complicated. The idea that you're gonna plot the dots, you're gonna look at the data, you're gonna understand special cause and common cause, and you're gonna segregate those out. And you're gonna roll up your sleeves and look at the process and change it if it needs to be changed to get the result that you need. Right? It's not that complicated. People can do it. Yet, I think the simplification of this, the idiot light approach, if I can use Rip's reference, means that people, maybe it's a time issue, maybe people don't want to invest the time, but they don't have the time to invest, and they just look at these dashboards, and they're not, again, hearkening back to these indicator lights on the car, you're not really understanding what your car is doing. You're not really understanding what's happening in that engine. You're just seeing the result and you're reacting accordingly, and many times you're going to make a change that's going to be way worse.
Well, I mean, just something you said just kind of sparked a thought in my head is I think part of the reason that people think it's complicated is because I think at one time it may have been just because you had to do it manually and chart the dots on a piece of paper rather than just plug them into a piece of software, which there's a jillion pieces of software from almost free to really expensive, everywhere in between. You can, charting the data and getting charts and that sort of stuff that are usable, that are give you useful information, isn't that hard. But I think the other thing is this used to be statistics, and I think that still carries across where the idea for some managers or people on the line or whatever is that it's statistics. So immediately they just hear the word statistics and they freak out. No, I can't do that.
Right.
Oh, but I can read red, yellow, and green.
Right.
And it's just it's a training thing.
It is. And again, if you just read red, yellow, green, you're not going to really understand what's going on, and that's the problem. Yeah. We had a lot of comments to this article, as I indicated. A lot of comments. I want to read one now from Jay Andel, who comments pretty frequently to articles that we run. And by the way, Rip answered almost every comment on here. So if you have a comment on the story and you want to interact with Rip, write it, and he'll most likely write you back and comment on that. And it's neat because we had that kind of that board going on this particular story, which was neat. Okay, I want to read this article from Jay Andel about red and green. I had not anticipated that anybody would be goofy enough to set red and green and even yellow boundaries while utterly ignoring the concepts of common and special cause. But I suppose I should have. Nor did it occur to me that the zones might be set based on spec limits instead of process capabilities. But again, I suppose I should have. I cannot and will not try to justify idiot lights as a replacement for a control chart with thoughtfully designed rational subgrouping. That perfectly puts the point perfectly. That's right. Why are you going to substitute a very basic and uninformative, series of 3 points of data? I mean, three breakdowns of very complicated data, maybe, and make a decision based on that. Doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense, and that's what Rip is saying here. So again, the piece, the article, "The World is Not Red or Green," it's right below the player page right here. Read it. Comment on it. Rip will write you back, and let's continue this discussion because it's a good one. Let's hear from people that are using dashboards and using them successfully, and why, and what your perspective on that is.
And by the way, we mentioned Deming's red bead experiment. The other day, we were cleaning out one of our closets, and we happened to come across our red bead experiment. If any of you are actually interested in seeing the red bead experiment, what we're talking about when we say this, if you've heard about it, you've never seen it demonstrated, or you just think it might be useful, just drop us a line. I mean, that could be a tech corner, for instance. We can do it real quick. Just send us a line at qdl@qualitydigest.com and let us know that you'd like to see the red bead experiment, and we'll show you right here on the show. It's very simple and it's very informative.
You can play Deming, I'll play the coolest executive.
Okay, you stupid idiot.
I'm sorry. How many extremely wealthy men did he make? And
I tell you, he was brutal.
Oh, anyway, all right, great stuff. Thanks.
Okay, well, that's actually our show for this week. Coming up next week, our very own intrepid reporter, Ryan Day, will be covering the Ford Motor Company's Go Forward with Ford Trend Conference, which begins on Tuesday. There are presentations on eco-psychology, urbanization, design, and more. Ford will also be treating attendees to a visit to the Henry Ford Museum and allowing them to slip behind the wheel of some of their newest vehicles for a few laps around the Proving Grounds racetrack. And I know Ryan's already stomping his feet.
Ryan's going to hate that.
I know. I think he's there's going to be a little money passing hands for see if Ryan can get into one of the latest cars.
the things that we make our editors
I tell you,
it's hard. It's a hard life here.
And this guy, he hates cars.
He hates cars.
He hates cars. Yeah.
It's going to be hard for him anyway.
Yeah. Well, Ryan's first article on this event, troubles, trends, and
hashtag go further.
Hashtag go further with Ford will appear in Monday's issue of QDD. In addition to article coverage of the event, Ryan has promised to keep us updated on the conference in real time via Twitter. All of Ryan's tweets will be prefaced by the QD Ryan hashtag and also contain the Go Further hashtag. He just got his first smartphone. So you may or may not see anything. No, we know he can figure out his smartphone, and now he's trying to use twit pics and twit vids and, twits.
Twit. Good luck. May the Ford be with you, Ryan.
May Ford be with you. We'll be getting something out of Ryan.
Yes, hopefully, yes. And something else we got that recently happened. Chris Smith, talk about Intrepid. Our Intrepid producer, Chris Smith, recently won his second Emmy.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, his
guy's head is big enough as it is.
I was gonna say we have to build an entirally new studio.
He's gonna need braces to hold his head up.
Gosh, well, congratulations, Chris and his partner Ryan Neese. Really, actually.
Yeah, it is very cool.
Very cool.
Their second Emmy.
It's second Emmy, and Chris, we love you, man. We respect you, even though we pretend we don't. And thank you for everything you do to make this show such a success.
That's right.
Great stuff.
Well, thank you for joining us again this week, and come back next week, same time.
That's right. We'll see you then. Have a great weekend.
So long.
Bye.
Thank you.